I'm female 34, losing my family because they think that I hid a fact from them that my ex, now sisters, female 28, husband male 35, is abusive. I don't want to go into all the details because it is long, boring, and still painful. Some bits at least. But I met my ex 4 years ago and I at least was madly in love with him. For about 2 years, I was blissfully happy until I took him home for Christmas and I caught him making out with my sister. It devastated me. My ex tried to apologize, kept trying to get me back, but I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. And 3 months later, my sister and him were expecting their first. Now they're married with 2 children. My family forgave them eventually when children were in the picture. I kept my distance, but I have met them on the occasional family gathering. I still feel hurt by my sister, but other than that, I'm good. Then last weekend, my mom asked me to come home for something urgent, and there was my dad too. They told me that they were disappointed in me for not being honest about my ex being violent. I was shocked, but my mom told me that he is physically harming my sister. That's when my sister came to my parents, and I saw her face and cut lip. I was shocked, and I really couldn't say anything other than I never knew. My sister became very upset and started yelling at me, asking what the heck I meant by that. That I was so much better than her that he didn't hurt me? I said no, but no amount of swearing that I didn't know and that he must have hidden his true nature would convince them. My mom just told me to leave and said she was very disappointed. I have cried every day now, remembering my sister's face, but I just don't know why this happened to her. He was so very kind and gentle with me, but I can't explain why he was that way. I don't know how people like him work, but according to my sister, if he is abusive once, then he must be like this all the time. I have no experience with people like this, so I couldn't answer her. But he has been harming her since the beginning of their relationship. When I calmed down, I texted my mother because she wasn't answering my calls. That my sister is right, and that people like my ex are just so. But that maybe the circumstances is different. My sister is younger. I knew that some men show their true colors after marriage, or after children, etc. My relationship with him wasn't of the same nature. I tried every explanation, but this just seemed to trigger her further because she texted me back that I'm a liar, that hid the truth from them, instead of warning my sister. She asked if I thought I was better than my sister not to have been harmed by the same man. I was shocked. Like, is it about the woman? Better women get mistreated less? I couldn't believe what I was reading. I texted her that she was disgusting to say something like this, but I regretted it so much. Now, nobody from my family is talking to me. Not even my father who I talk to on a daily basis. I don't know what to do or how to help. I really need help explaining why my sister's husband is what he is. I feel so guilty. Now for the top advice. So your family, who have excused your sister's awful betrayal, are mad at you because you could have magically foreseen your ex's true nature? Someone who's so messed up in the head that fooled around with your sister right under your nose at a family event? I don't know where to start. Cut all of them off and get therapy to figure out why you'd be able to twist all this up in your own head so that you're the bad guy. Yeah, this family's literal garbage. Better off without them by a million miles. Viking funeral for the family. Let them all burn and pile. They're jumping to some pretty massive logic gaps to justify this. Harm a bit. And it is OP's fault and not Sister and more husband's actions? I mean, it is not like Sister tested the waters and looked for red flags before humping her now awful husband. A million miles may not be enough. All of this, like the fact that he was a cheater, didn't clue them in that he is not great news? If anything, Sister thought she was special and had never mistreat her. He's just had more time to escalate during his marriage. She got pregnant, then they got married, and the real him came out. If you had married him and had a baby with him, he probably would have mistreated you too. There are people that once they lock down their significant other, the real them comes out. This isn't your fault. Instead of blaming him, they are blaming you. He is the POS. I wonder what Sister wants out of this. Blame OP because she brought home a man that little sister could steal? Sister believes it must have happened to OP, and she should have been fairly warned. Even if she was an a-hole to her sister, she didn't deserve that kind of treatment. I can understand being really upset knowing the same man hit her but not you, but the family's backwards. They should be ostracizing him instead of OP. No offense, but why do you want this family? Your sister betrayed you. They took her side. You left and did not want anything to do with your sister. People like your ex have a good way of hiding it. This isn't your fault. He is a trashy person. But I will say, find a family that will treat you better, not one that will always make you the one at fault for things that aren't. And like another poster pointed out, what did they expect from a cheater? Didn't she get all the signs she needed then that he wasn't a good person? Next story. My parents disowned me for ruining my sister's relationship, but I'm happier and healthier than ever. My older sister was going out with a guy who worked as a psychologist. She used to pressure me into booking an appointment with him for the longest time, until I informed him about her antics, which put a strain on their relationship, as accepting me as a patient would be an ethical violation and he could easily lose his license over this. My parents were mad at me for not going along with my sister's demands, but things calmed down once she made up with her boyfriend. It didn't last long though. After some time, my sister started bragging about knowing some spicy details from her boyfriend's therapy sessions. I thought she was bluffing at first, since she has a tendency to just say whatever to make herself look more important, but I was apparently wrong. During one of the family dinners, in the presence of all the aunts and uncles, my sister started to talk about her boyfriend's patients with a lot of details. As someone who is currently attending therapy for over a year, I was appalled. I didn't know what to do with this for the longest time. I even thought about reporting her boyfriend, but I didn't. I couldn't do it, since there was no physical proof of what my sister said, and I'm pretty sure no one would attest to what happened at the dinner for the sake of keeping the peace, as always. But oh god, I'm glad I haven't reported this poor man, since he himself was pretty much unaware of everything. Since this post is already long enough, I would try to keep it as short as possible. I contacted my sister's boyfriend and told him about her gossiping about his patients. I have no proof, but I told him the information and managed to remember. He didn't confirm or deny that those details are true, but I guess they were, as hearing about it was enough for him to break up with my sister. All hell broke loose. She had to move out from his house back to our parents' place, which made my parents really unhappy. From what I learned before my parents decided they hate me for what I did, my sister somehow got an access to her now ex-boyfriend's work laptop, which is a crime, by the way. She almost jeopardized his career, and I know he tried to sue her. I don't know the details because by then I was already officially disowned and blocked by my parents. The rest of my family also isn't too thrilled with me because everyone was wishing for a doctor, lawyer, or psychologist to join the family. Honestly, at first I was grieving the loss of my parents and even sister, but as months go by, I feel better and better. I'm currently attending the university almost 4 hours away and living in a dormitory. And while I do miss coming home to my parents, I've realized they had a lot to do with my mental health deteriorating due to their obvious favoritism. I'm happy to get it out of my system. OMG, she did what? Oh man, OP, you 100% did the right thing. Like, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up right now, thinking about what she would have read in the file if that were my psychologist. That's such an awful thing for her to do. On behalf of all her ex-boyfriend's patients, thank you. You protected them from something they hopefully never need to find out they needed protecting from. I was just as terrified as you are. The things she said during that dinner was really detailed. Not some vague, there is this patient that has this problem, but more like, there is a woman named XYZ who works at the school and has this problem. Not one person at a table, aside from me, saw a problem with that. So thank you for this comment. It actually means a lot to me, even if I know deep down that I did the right thing. Damn, that's wild. She may have already ruined his career. By law, he has to inform the patients of the breach, which could lead them to firing him and spreading the news. He could be fired if he's with a company/group, and they're extra risk-averse. If he hadn't sued her, he'd be risking his license. This is all just gross. Your sister needs a new therapist, and not to date. Wow. Sister should have had charges brought against her. She violated confidential files. Your sister is a POS, and any family member taking her side is also. I'm pretty sure her ex was trying to sue her, but I don't know what came out of it. At this point, I'm afraid that reaching out to any member of my family would be like sticking a hand into a beehive. As an aside, I'm sure you realize she wanted you to have a session with him so she could read his session notes. Stay away from her, literally forever. Oh yeah, I'm aware of this. She wasn't even trying to hide it, to be honest. She accused me of going behind her back to contact her ex-boyfriend because he was very professional after learning about everything, told me he can't have me as a client for ethical reasons, and gave me few recommendations, which she saw as some gotcha moment, saying I must be faking not feeling well, and I'm afraid she will learn about it. Wow, your sister seems like a nightmare, and one that completely lacks critical thinking skills. I can't even understand the mental gymnastics she had to go through to think that the result of her boyfriend saying no to the session for ethical reasons is you must be faking not feeling well. That's just so dumb. I almost feel bad for her. Her IQ must be depressingly low. Last story. I lost my best friend because I reported her child predator stepson. This happened in 2019. My friend of 10 years told me her stepson, about 20 or 21, was being investigated for exposing himself to school kids near their school. Like he was literally waiting for kids to get out of school and had his junk in his hand in his car so they could see him. He was waiting for a court date when she called me freaking out because he was on the news as wanted because he had touched a 10 to 11-year-old girl in a store. I immediately Googled the incident and saw his mugshot as a person of interest for touching a little girl in the toys section of a Target store. I immediately called a detective. The news gave a number that if anyone knew this person who fit this description, they should call it. I told the detective I knew who this person was and that he was waiting a trial for exposing himself to school children. I told the detective his name and gave him the number of my friend and said that was his stepmom. My friend called me perplexed that a detective called her, and she didn't know how he got her number. I played dumb for about a month, then I couldn't hold it in any longer. When she asked me how he knew her number, I told her I called him, that I was accountable to the community and to that little girl who he tried to grab. I told her that if her stepson had a personal computer at her house, she should turn it over because it probably had materials on it involving children. That he was sick and deserved to go to jail. Things were never the same between us after that. She disowned me as a friend, told me she couldn't trust me anymore. She said she was trying to help him and that he could recover from his impulsive behavior. That a therapist said there was hope in the future for him. I have a hard time believing that someone who is attracted to kids can recover from that and live a normal life. I don't know, maybe they can, but I don't think they're safe in the community around kids. I don't hide my identity here. I don't care honestly. I believe what I did was the right thing to do. If I never talk to her again, I will still feel like I did the right thing. We must protect our kids. Now for the comments. I agree that you absolutely 100% did the right thing. It sucks that you lost a friend, but you are truly better off without her in your life if she is the type of person willing to hide/cover for a child predator. I know people are willing to go to great lengths sometimes to protect their kids/stepkids, but Jesus, there is a line, and pedos are way over it. Anyone willing to knowingly put every other person's children at risk just to save their own is not worthy having you as their friend. I'd wager she was never truly Opie's friend if she bailed on them after that. Friend was 100% an enabler and probably a sociopath. She should have helped him before he went to touch a minor. I hate people like your friend who blame everyone but the person who was in the wrong. Exactly. I know that in Europe, there are programs for people who feel attracted to minors, where they can get free therapy to help them to never act on it. That's the keyword here. The stepson already acted on his impulses more than once and traumatized little kids. He has to answer for that. Exactly. Many people who feel that kind of attraction were themselves assaulted as kids. Many mental health professionals consider this kind of attraction as a mental health disorder, which it is. Healthy, normal adult brains are not interested in kids. Having the thoughts and seeking help so they don't act on them is brave. The key though is that they do not act on them. Stepson might have had something awful happen to him as a kid. He might be mentally unwell. But in the end, he did act on these thoughts. And multiple minors were traumatized because of it. He has to live with the consequences of that. If stepmom wants to help him, she can fight for him to be institutionalized instead of imprisoned. But at the end of the day, he harmed multiple children. If he goes to prison, that's on him, not Opie. You did the right thing. While the police were looking for an unidentified perp, he was free to attack other defenseless children. He was looking for his third victim until he was caught. Again. You did the right thing. Maybe even saved his life from an irate family member. The therapist said that he might be okay in the future. That's after sentencing, jail time, and lots of therapy. 20 years in the future with a lot of hard work on his part and oversight by doctors, therapists, and probation officers, he might get better. I doubt he will ever be given a clean bill of health and permission to oversee little children, but he might get better. You are better off without that friend who will hide a pedo stepson who's attacked a child and being actively sought for violating another. She's the relative who will encourage a victim not to tell because their molester was family and let the crime continue. The perp isn't the only sick one in that family. Thank you. Update: thank you everyone for your comments and sharing your experiences and for your willingness to do the same thing. More people like this, please. None of that matters, and I feel great about this after hearing from all of you. Thank you for listening and lending support and friendship.